Hello, what's your name?
Amelia.
This is Amelia and her great dancing skills. Alrighty. Section 103 of the Doctrine and Covenants gives us an excellent opportunity to discuss the value of small group discussions. Now, let me show you a PowerPoint that I use when I teach this. As you know, Section 103 is the Lord is going to establish Zion's camp with this revelation, at least begin to establish it. But first, it's important for him to get some truths into the minds and hearts of the people before we do this incredible venture. One of them is found in verses 5 through 7. As I was reading verses 5 through 7 with my class, I realized that the Lord was using this like absolutes in his language. Look at it with me. Verse 5, hearken from this very hour. That's another way of saying immediately I want you to do something. And then look in verse 7. What does he want us to do? He wants us to hearken to observe all the words that the Lord has spoken. And if we'll do that, see, they will never cease to prevail until the kingdom of the Lord. So these all never immediately, right? This is really extreme and absolute language. And so a truth you see that I would have put up here on the board, we would have discovered, is that the Lord requires absolute obedience. And you might be able to word that even better, but I tried to make it short and compact. One of the issues is this truth it's true, but it's kind of devoid of some deeper meaning and context right now. This truth alone, without really exploring it, could be crushing to some people. So one of the ways I might explore it is, and I really want each student to think about particularly complicated truths like this, and so that might require each of them to engage in talking about it. And that's why in this instance, I might use small group discussion in the analyze the truths portion. Now, one of the important things I'm hoping you really get from this training is each of our tendency to initiate a group conversation, a small group or a parent share type conversation, and in so doing, to give multiple instructions to students, but they're not written down anywhere. We'll just say to them, go ahead and get in pairs, and then we'll say some things like, why don't you go ahead and discuss why absolute obedience is difficult, just like I have on the screen here, and it might be in our head or on our lesson plan. We'll say, and why do you think the Lord requires absolute obedience, and does he always? And go ahead and discuss that, and we've said multiple things, and we send them off and say, we'll give you 8 minutes, ready to go. And then the students start discussing. And they might be done quickly, more quickly than you think, or you realize they're actually not talking about what you invited them to talk about, or maybe you start to get a little irritated. But one of the things that really might be happening is they weren't with you. They didn't hear what you were saying. You gave them too many instructions. It's a little confusing. You've already done the thinking and prepping in your lesson prep, and you know where this is going, but maybe they don't. So something very simple and very effective is just to have the prompts, try to make them simple and clear, have it written on the board, have some information written, whether it's on your computer so that they all can all see it, or written up on the board before you start in class. Sometimes what I'll do is write something up on the board like this, and then I'll cover it with either another piece of the sliding board or a piece of paper or something, so that they're not too distracted by it while we're doing the prep material for the truth. And then I'll uncover it to show them and say, go ahead and work through each of these questions. Now, you may have already thought about how this truth needs to be expanded more. One of the ways that I find a truth like this valuable, and I think one of the reasons the Lord is teaching it, is because absolute obedience immediately, which is almost impossible for humans, certainly impossible for us to sustain for long periods of time, it's describing Jesus, that he was absolutely obedient and immediately, and that his will was able to prevail. Even the atonement, we don't see it as this Lord's failure or his death, that he got captured and he didn't ultimately. No, actually, we see that as his will and prevailing, and that his prevailing was always. And so for him to command or demand absolute obedience from us immediately is really also an invitation to rely upon him, the only one who can actually do this. Zion's camp is going to take more than what the people themselves can offer. But if the Lord just commanded them to be, partially obedient, sort of do the best you can, they could have fulfilled that completely and probably wouldn't have needed him. So this is an opportunity for them to rely upon him. Get your students talking together, particularly on complicated truths that take some analyzing. Sometimes it's good to do it in a full group, but I found that there are some students who need to verbally process things, but are maybe a little bit too afraid or too timid right now to do it in front of the whole class. So that's why I might choose to analyze these complicated truths with a smaller group, just one other person, to help them to talk it out and to really start to understand some more nuances to a truth like this. Okay, let me know how it goes. Any of you who are interested, you can have a conversation with me via email or text or any other mode that would work for you. I hope this is going to be helpful for you while you teach Doctrine and Covenants, section 103.